Thanks for agreeing to meet with me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
When I met you at the expo, uh, we were sitting there having a conversation at the Outback booth, and I was like, man, that guy had some good things to say. And then I kind of drove off, and I was like, wait, I have a podcast. I should ask him.
Exactly.
But at that time, I was kind of already halfway down the road. And so
Right, yeah.
I messaged Jeremiah, and I was like, who was that guy? Could you get him on the pod?
Yeah.
And he was able to connect us. So
Yeah,
I'm
for
thankful
sure.
For that.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you at the trade show, and yeah, here we are.
Did those work pretty well for you guys?
So the backstory is that's the first one that I've ever done. So
Okay.
I spent about 15 years. I worked for Spy Point. I was a trade show coordinator and pro staff, and so I would go to like the ATA, the SHOT. I do a lot of their media stuff, and then I would do work their booth, and then the smaller consumer shows. I headed that up. Well, then once COVID hit and kind of shut all those down, I was like, it's kind of nice being home. So I quit doing that. And then Mel, who works for me full time, she worked for me about 12 years. She worked at the Big Nickel here locally, and she did, like, if you remember, like they did like the Man Show, which was in Joplin and other little remote locations. And when they built the new Joplin Expo Center, she kind of hit me up and was like, hey, we should do another trade show. Now, mind you, I own a restaurant, Airbnb, a guide service.
Do you go to a restaurant in town here?
No, it's up by my lodge, so it's
okay.
up north. And so I'm like, man, I really want to tackle something else. And so we went and looked at the facility, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of connections in the outdoor industry because that's what I've done for 25 years. And so this was our first year that we've done it. We kind of started small, and basically everyone that had a booth was, like Steven with Outback, was personal connections that I was worried about the attendance and making sure that, hey, these guys have spent X amount for a booth. I don't want 100 people to come through. So yeah, honestly, if we look back on it, the first year we just had a wrap-up meeting. It went way better than what we thought.
So you guys were like, this is your guys' deal, really.
Right, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
I know you had a good spot right up front, and I was like,
yeah.
I'm just like, oh, they're shelling out the big bucks for the good spot.
Right. So I really didn't kind of, it's kind of a little bit confusing if you're saying, okay, so I own the trade show company, Your Outdoors, and then Your Outdoors Expo, and then I own Pro Outfitters. So Mel did most of all that stuff because I guide all the time. So we just put Pro Outfitters in a good spot and had a booth and just kind of played it that way because it was a little maybe confusing. So someone would come up and ask me about the show, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, I own it. They're like, now what? So we just kind of put it as it's completely two different businesses and entities. But yeah, for the first year, it was really good. Obviously, you live in the Joplin area. You're not that far from Tulsa and Springfield, Northwest Arkansas, and we're going to do some bigger and better things next year. So pretty excited about that.
Well, and I came from Portland, Oregon, and they have the expo out there. That's like one of the biggest ones that happens every year in the country. And it's insane. I mean, Portland's designed horribly in the traffic side of things. So it's like when the expo is going on, you can't help but notice it. It's like that whole section right there, and see, here's the bad design of it. In order to get across the bridge to Washington, it narrows down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so then that's the same area where the expo
is.
So you just have thousands and thousands and thousands of cars, and traffic will be worse than you've ever seen it. But it's always great because there's so many good guys out there. Like one of my favorite groups out there, they have a YouTube channel, Born and Raised Outdoors.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Big elk hunters and whatnot. And then obviously guys travel, so if you want to check out the new Crispy Boots or whatever it may be, that's a great place to do it. But no, that's awesome. I mean, you had a lot of really good guys there, a lot of Iowa guys, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, so our lodge is geographically it's right on the Missouri River, so it's actually on the Nebraska side of the Missouri River. So we're just 45 minutes from Iowa, and a lot of our guides and a lot of the clients that we have are from that area. So it's kind of word of mouth of a few Iowans knew about the show and did a booth, and then that kind of grew, from there. So
it reminds me, so I'm a committee member for the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the Missouri chapter. And we were having this discussion yesterday about North Missouri becoming essentially congested because the Iowa craze for whitetail.
Exactly.
And you guys are seeing this in Nebraska if you're right there too.
Yeah. So I'm in Northwest Missouri, so I'm about 45 minutes north of St. Joseph. So we cover from like Mound City area to Maryville all the way up to Rockport, which is kind of the triangle almost into Iowa. Then we cover southeast Nebraska, and then we're 7 miles north of Kansas. So we do Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska all out of the same lodge. So we do deer, turkey, duck, and goose in 3 states. So it's pretty hectic. Yeah. So.
And I mean, I go back and forth on this because I'm like, look, I'd love to go to Iowa and hunt whitetails just as much as the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give Iowa $600 for a couple months for 5-6 years in a row.
I know, and that's what Missouri, if you've seen the surveys, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens in the next couple years. And I was just discussing that with our guides on our group text. They're like, hey, did you see this about the changes with Missouri with the, the forum and surveys and stuff? And I'm like, me personally, I would like to see Missouri just go to $1 for a resident, $1 for a non-resident, and then if you just want to double the price, if it's $300 now and you want to make it $550, but you can purchase it over the counter anytime, that is so much simpler because what you just said, a lot of guys are just like, when they call the book a hunt, they're like, that's the first thing they ask. They don't ask the price. Is it over the counter or a draw? It's over the counter. Okay, perfect. It's a draw. Oh, the draw could be $150 and Missouri could be $600, but they're like, oh, but I got to call, I got to get online, and they just don't want to do that. Yeah. So if Missouri was smart, they would just almost double the price, bring it back to $1 total as a non-resident, and you're going to sift through a lot of people that are not willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have the hardcore guys that are like, okay, well, I'm going to pay the price, but if I have to do the drawing and all that, like what you said, hey, basically I got to pay, you're going to have my money for X amount of time and then figure out if I'm
successful, you send it back. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so for what people don't know, if you haven't seen the survey yet, what we're talking about here is Missouri's proposed changes for 2027 effectively will decrease the non-resident bucks from 2 to 1.
Yep.
Potentially increase that price,
yes,
like they did with turkey this year,
which I'm all for. Yes, yep.
And then there's some additional changes too that I've seen of charging public land access fee.
Yeah,
and that one does rub me a little bit.
I'm not a fan of that one. I guess I have a couple questions. One, I'm not a fan of that, and I'm all in favor of increasing the price for out-of-state hunters. But my question is, where's that money going? Are they using that money which we need to invest and purchase more public ground? I think so. Yeah. But if that money is just wasted for whatever, then I don't think that's something that should be done. But it'll be interesting to see.
I can impose a little bit of enlightenment on that part. So I was naturally fairly skeptical about MDC dollars and how they are spent as well. But communicating with some of my peers in backcountry hunters and anglers who have a much, much closer relationship with some guys in MDC, the general consensus of people who are sitting in some of these meetings and have direct communication is that the money is being very well allocated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so it's kind of on the surface sometimes, like I talk about this a lot, where it's like, why is it every time I go to Talbot, there's no crop in the ground and the grass isn't cut and this, that, and the third. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's just a Southwest Missouri thing because a lot of our non-resident pressure is in North Missouri.
It totally is, because that just seems to be, if you're thinking of big bucks, turkeys, ducks, or geese, you're wanting that north of I-70 corridor, which is from geographically from Kansas City, St. Louis, north of there. So yeah,
which is, I hate talking about this on the podcast because it's like totally shooting myself in the foot. But a lot of people, I get the North Missouri and the Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas thing, but dude, I hear of giant bucks getting killed in Southwest every year.
True. So I was born and raised here. I still live here. Obviously, I have a lodge in northern Missouri and southeast Nebraska and northeast Kansas. And there's almost like guys will say to me, they'll bring up pictures and be like, hey, man, we kill great deer in southwest Missouri. I'm like, I'm not saying that you don't. It's just the percentage. For every, let's just say, every one Pope and Young deer that's killed in southwest Missouri, there's maybe 4 or 5 in northern Missouri. But there is just as many guys that I know that consistently kill 150-inch deer because they've done the research, they know what they're doing, they hunt smart, they hunt the wind, they put in food plots, they have trail cameras, they know how to get in and get out with being detected. So I think that the technology, we're way smarter as a hunter than we were 15 years ago. And with that, I think the amount of big bucks in southern Missouri has just exploded from the fact that I don't think it's kind of a sleeper area. You're just not thinking of 160s and 170s, but I have friends that consistently kill 150s or better. And I have friends in northern Missouri that consistently don't kill 150s. So I think now maybe there's it's swung a little bit depending on like there's so much pressure up north that there's less pressure here, and if you know what you're doing and how to hunt them, do I think you can consistently kill 150-inch deer in Southwest Missouri? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I go back and forth on this because it's like you also have a population kind of situation up there. If you have, call it 3 times the amount of hunters in the woods, naturally more bucks, big bucks, are going to get killed and posted on Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Clearly, yeah. And I think the other thing that's changed up there for the guys who have not hunted up in that area, which has changed in the past 25 years I've been up there, the habitat. So the ground is so fertile. Farmers are now farming more ditch to ditch. So they're asking, a lot of people like, man, why is there less big deer killed in northern Missouri and turkeys? It's because there's less habitat. Where here, the ground isn't as fertile, so they're not farming ditch to ditch. You can still get farmers to leave you some CRP, some cedar thickets, and all that. Where up there, the farmer's like, man, I have my own equipment. It's dry. I can doze all this down and get higher yields. And that is the biggest thing that's happening up north.
Yeah, and I have a really interesting podcast coming up with somebody who lives up there in the Prairie Pothole region.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the big problem that they're running into up there.
Yes, for sure.
Is the farmers are like, I don't care about cover.
They don't. Yeah.
And we're seeing this, it's like CRP dollars aren't increasing with the rate of inflation. So it's like, even if a farmer who would have left some extra ground or whatever, it's like, look, we're all trying to get enough to pay the bills and everything.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for those guys too, I mean, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's the big, maybe that we don't do a very good job as outdoorsmen to landowners to farmers, is we fail to see it through their eyes. And from a farmer standpoint of the whole, deal with leasing ground of like, hey, is it okay if you get $50 an acre? Well, for maybe it's not okay to most people, but if a farmer is struggling and he can obviously lease his ground for $50 an acre to compensate for lower yields or drought or flood, you got to see that as, his prerogative to do that. On the flip side is that you understand that what you just said about the Prairie Pothole region of the way that the farming practices in South Dakota, North Dakota, Northern Missouri, Southeast Nebraska, and Iowa have just changed over the past 20 years with the cost of land going up dramatically, taxes, insurance, seed, fertilizer, all that they have to farm more aggressive than they did. And I think it just, as hunters, we're just trying to find a balancing act with the ecosystem. Like, hey, how can we still be able to harvest and have great hunts, keep it affordable for everybody? And I think that's what Missouri and all of them are not panicking. I do like that they're like, hey, we got to limit out-of-state hunters and try and figure out how we can still have quality hunts for everyone. And I was discussing that with a friend today. It's like, if you told me that in Missouri that my clients could only get drawn every third year, but every third year they had world-class hunts, I would take that over the overpopulation of hunters and the amount of trespassers that we incur every season. So when you think of it that way, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And so you are seeing a lot, because I hear about these trespassing stuff, but I'm not a big private land guy.
Right.
The ground, I did have some ground in Kansas that I was hunting. The owner recently passed, and the son's kind of managing it now. And I just, you know how the people are. Sometimes you just don't get along with people. And I'm just like, you know what? I foresee something weird happening here. I'm going to back out.
Right.
Type of situation.
Yeah.
But he was saying there's a lot of trespassing and a lot of poaching that happens. And I had a 160 I was chasing one year out there. I mean, all of brown tines, tall as a skyscraper. Just an awesome, awesome buck. And then as soon as rifle season hit, and I was like, without a doubt, the only person who could hunt this place. And I knew that the deer weren't really leaving it very much, but there was some weehaw right across the street, and I was like, he's feeding out in this ag field right there.
Right, yeah.
Anybody that sees this deer is going to be... Guys can't control themselves sometimes.
No.
So really you're seeing trespassing on your guys' leases a lot?
I would say in the past couple of years it's went down. The peak was obviously COVID because people could work remote. We benefited from it because now guys can come in and be like, hey, I got to get on a Skype or I got to get on a Zoom call for a couple hours and I can go deer hunting, duck hunting. So it helped us, but then it just had the accessibility that everyone could, get a hotel room, work in the morning, deer hunt, duck hunt, turkey hunt in the afternoon. And then it was just insane how many road hunters and hunters we had. And then the negative to that is like farmers were now bombarded with out-of-staters beating on their door. Yeah. So it became like a little bit of an issue on that end. And now it's kind of cycled back down because obviously fuel prices are higher and the cost of leasing has went up and the cost of tags. So it's kind of seemed like it kind of calmed down a little bit. But man, I think with hunters, we're just trying to find that balance. You hear one side saying that, hey, hunting is like a dying sport, and then the other side saying, like, where are we going to put all these hunters? There's more hunters than there were 10 years ago. I don't have the numbers, and I don't know if the numbers are accurate, but it's like on one side, we want to help guys along, and we want them to join the sport that we have so much passion and love, and until they have success and start hunting the accessible ground that we have, then like, wait, I want you on it, but then I don't want you on it. And I think that that's kind of where we're at as hunters. It's like we don't want to point the finger and say, hey, or put up our hand and say, hey, we don't want out-of-state hunters at all. And then we don't put up our hand and say, I don't want to teach any more young kids to learn to love the sport. But we know that there's the amount of ground that's accessible for us to be able to hunt is shrinking, and it's just trying to figure out how we can come together and not fight amongst each other of how to make that all work.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind for me. When I was living in Oregon, when Joe Rogan started elk hunting, it was just like immediately this explosion of elk hunters in the woods and people who were buying more bows and arrows, which is all great, right? That's Pittman Robertson dollars, but you see it die off pretty quickly. Archery's hard, elk hunting's hard. Guys selling their bows, they pick up a rifle. Well, rifle season's only 3 days long, and we're always going to see these spikes, especially when someone like a Joe Rogan or a COVID happens and people are scared about food. My wife and I, or my fiance, we've always been big on preservation and all this stuff. And so hunting more, and that was always kind of a natural part of the fold. But for a lot of people, I mean, they were legitimately scared and legitimately concerned. So I understand that. But the thing that I always come back to is like non-resident hunting. It's just a luxury. It's just a privilege.
I totally agree.
If anybody, I think about some kid who doesn't come from a lot of money. Maybe he's got grandpa's old 870. In Missouri, he can get a buck tag and, 1,000 doe tags, for 20, 30. I mean, realistically, if he could scrounge up $40 and a box of buckshot, he could feed himself for a year.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, for him to be like, well, I want to go kill a big buck in Kansas. It's like you're getting out of the realm of necessity and into the realm of like luxury and privilege.
Yes.
Which is great.
Right, for sure.
But it's like, I think about it, it's like I give Kansas, if I'm lucky I draw a buck tag, $400.
Yep.
You got a $140 license. This year you got another $75 out of me for a turkey
tag. Yep.
And then I'm probably going to be buying my fur harvester license as well because I have the spot that's like riddled with beavers, and I'm like, I want those.
Right. Yeah.
So there's another $200.
Yes.
So, and then we look at it. Your average Kansas resident, if they buy their tags and licenses.
Yeah, that's a big if, yeah.
And you live in some of these rural parts, you're never seeing green pants on grandpa's property. You know what I mean?
No.
So it's like, it's such a difficult balance because non-resident dollars make up so much of the conservation budget, but it seems like these states, almost all of them, never anticipated the amount of non-resident pressure that we're seeing now, and I think we're seeing some of that balancing happening.
Right, and I think with that is you're having, it's a smaller percentage of guys that are hunting multiple states. So if you're making that a little bit more difficult to where they're going to have to pick and choose which state they can hunt, I think ultimately that's probably going to be a good thing for everyone. Even me as an outfitter, someone may look at it like, wait, how does that make sense? It just does. I think that long term you want to make sure that obviously that the growth of the sport continues, but that the frustration now is at an all-time high, which I'm foreseeing the future as in of hunting 10, 15, 20 years down the road. There's so much frustration and so much fighting amongst us that if we can relieve any amount of that, of putting a few restrictions or making it a little bit more tougher, I personally, and I hunt all the time and hunt multiple states, I think that's a good thing long term.
Yeah, I do worry. It does. I mean, the game. Look, I apply for Wyoming. I got points everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah.
Any Western state that's worth hunting, I have points in.
Yeah.
And I was telling my buddy, I was like, dude, I could go broke just trying to buy points every year.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, and I think a part of this is, you know, and I'm guilty of it myself because, like, I love filming my hunts and putting them out there and documenting all this. You know, if it was up to me, I would put out 5-6 films from 6 different states every year. And you see guys like maybe like the Hunting Public or something are doing that. And guys think, in order for me to be a serious hardcore hunter, or Cam Haines, you know, it's like go kill 4 elk in 4 different states and it's this whole thing. It's like, guys, that's his business.
Right.
Is making these films.
Yes.
If you can kill a nice buck that you're proud of, that you want to put on your wall in a state, like last year, for example, I had Colorado elk tag that I drew, which is because it's all of draw now.
Right.
You know? Which, just so people know, you can still draw almost 100%. Anytime, you just got to do a little bit of research.
Right, yeah.
Which, without getting too distracted on my original point, that's a big holdup for a lot of people, understanding the systems.
It is, for sure.
But I got so busy with work that I had to eat that tag.
Right.
It was like, okay, $800 loss, or I can miss all this work and effectively quadruple that loss.
Right, yeah.
You know, so I was like, dang.
Yeah.
I still was able to film a Kansas buck tag, which I was really proud of. But filming Missouri tag and a Kansas tag was a full year. We're still working through deer meat. And, you know, if I had 6 kids or something like that, I might be like, okay, maybe we need another
right, yeah.
one. But
yeah.
it's me and my wife.
Right.
So totally a luxury. But again, it's like, am I part of the problem or am I helping by giving Colorado $800 and not even participating in the field?
I know multiple guys that have done that, because I always say this: there's the guys who have with our clients, they have more money than time, and they purchase all these tags, and then when they start looking at the time available, it's like, I bought the tag, but there's no way I'm going to be able to make it. So I understand where you're coming from.
And the draw system in the United States, do you ever watch any of Pedro Ampuero's videos? He's a YouTube guy. He's from Spain, and he's like killing like ibex and Marco Polo and all the crazy starff.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he talks about the American draw system versus like international. You know, like right now, one of the ones that I'm started putting in for more regularly is the Maine moose hunt.
Oh, I've bear hunted Maine, and seeing the moose up there is impressive. It's so cool.
Yeah, and the bear is over the counter tag.
Yeah,
anybody
can
do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, let's say I was to draw that Maine tag, which happens in June. Well, if I wanted to hunt an elk during that same time, those draws are already happening. You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's like, you could get really lucky and maybe draw a Wyoming tag, and now you have to be like, do I want to hunt elk in Wyoming, which is like tops,
right,
or moose in Maine? Obviously, you're going to take the Maine one,
right? Yeah,
because there's some leftover programs and stuff, but. It's I always find it kind of interesting because it's like you start looking at these different sites and they'll use like the same website template or whatever, but none of them really communicate with one another.
They don't at all.
And part of me is like, state rights is probably the best way to go about things. Federal government just has a great tendency of screwing things up.
Yes, they do.
But if we had a system that was a little bit more unified, like almost like a unifying body between the states, maybe like I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a tricky game, and it's getting more interesting to navigate. Ultimately, though, as a Missouri resident and seeing turkey tags go down for non-residents, I look at that and I'm like, well, great for me.
I think that's great overall for the sport, and I think my whole theory behind all that is, being an outfitter for 25 years, I've just seen where the evolution of turkeys, I thought that we got to the point where we were just checking a box. So, for instance, I was telling you, we do hunts in Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska. So, at one time, you could kill 3 birds in Nebraska, 2 in Kansas, and 2 in Missouri. And on a couple particular years, we'd have clients that would come and fill 7 tags in 3 states. But there was little to zero value on the bird harvested. So, my point is now, with the tag being over $300 in one bird, it now puts it back to where, like, man, I had a great season. I went to Missouri and killed a bird. Where before it was like, well, I killed 7 birds in 2.5 days. It became like, if you didn't fill all the tags in a short amount of time, then you didn't have a great season. Yeah. And I do like how they've kind of transitioned back. That's like a deer, like it should be. I view a wild turkey as just something so amazing that if you kill one a year, that's a great season.
Yeah.
But years ago, it's like, oh, I traveled to 7 states and I killed 17 turkeys, and I'm like, Did you even take any time to really think about what you did and to be in awe of just what a amazing opportunity that is? So I think most people, maybe I'm just because I'm old now, view that as like, man, if I go out as a non-resident, which I'm obviously a Missouri resident, but guys who come in and I kill 1 turkey in Missouri and then I can kill one in whatever their home state is, that's a great season. Mm-hmm. And years ago, that wasn't. It was like, oh, well, you only killed 1 in Missouri and 1 in Kansas and 1 here. Well, I killed 9. And now that everything is a draw and restricted, I think it brings it back to the forefront of like habitat management. And like, I think it's easier for us to bring kids up and be like, hey, if you were able to hunt 5 days and kill 1 turkey, that's an amazing season. Yep. And not bring it as in, oh, you hunted 5 days and you didn't kill 5 birds in 5 states. Mm-hmm. And I think that was all because of us, as in social media people and outfitters that promoted that. And now that we've had to reprogram our brains to back to like, hey, this is a trophy, and if we don't treat it that way, there will be no wild turkeys. And I think it's really changed everything to now it's like, how did your season go? And now guys like, I killed a turkey in Missouri, I'm so thankful. Mm-hmm. And that brings a smile to my face. Like, that's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah. Not
just like how many I can kill in a short amount of time.
Well, I always worry too, like, that if someone's killing 17 birds in a couple days, it's like, are you processing all of that meat? Are you actually taking it home and eating it? Or is that something you guys do as the outfitter?
We do some of that, but it drives me nuts because people ask me, like, what do you do with it all? If you come to the lodge, I mean, we venison, like, that's how we eat spaghetti and tacos and chili and everything. And we love snow goose. And people are like, you eat that? Of course we do. I've never been a fan of something that we're going to shoot or I'm going to shoot that I'm not going to eat. Mm-hmm. And I just love the idea of like, man, we made that. My kids love a turkey hunt. And when they killed it and we brought it back and we were frying it up, we take pictures of them helping prepare the meal just as much as the hero photos, because that was important to be like, hey guys, this is your turkey. Mm-hmm. You provided dinner for our family. And I think with what you just said, and half the time clients would be like, oh, you guys can just keep the meat, you can keep the fan and the beard, and it's like, then it got to a point like, you just want the picture.
You just want the picture, yeah.
And exactly. You just want, and then it's just, that is all for social media, which I think now it's went back to, I've noticed people are telling the story. Man, I got to turkey hunt with my son, or I only had 3 days to turkey hunt in Missouri, and the birds didn't work, and they have the one picture of the one bird, and then everybody's like, man, what a great story. Mm-hmm. Compared to you're skipping over, here's a guy, doesn't matter how much money he makes or not, he may save a bunch of money. It's like, I killed 9 turkeys in 7 days, and I could have done it faster. And people are like, okay, well, I don't know how that's really good for the sport.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, it's a treasure. It's like, and then on top of that, my family got to eat wild turkey that they absolutely love. And then that gets kids and people to be like, man, we love wild turkey. We need to get more of our family members out there to hunt for all the right reasons.
Yeah. So. And I absolutely agree. I mean, I just harvested a bird in Kansas today you were asking me about, and I was holding off the story because I wanted to tell it on the record. So, it is the 3rd day of the Kansas turkey season right now. And they have the archery segment and a little bit of youth. Yep. And, for me, I'm a bow hunter, like, through and through. Right. So I jumped on that opportunity as fast as I possibly could. And so the first day, I'll tell you the story. The first day, I was on private ground with my buddy this guy, he's hilarious. I love this guy. It's my buddy Adam. We spent hours and hours in the duck blind in Kansas this year. Never once. I mean, dude, we practically died out there 4 or 5 times, freezing our ass off. Never once he mentioned that his family's got this big 700-acre ranch out there towards Erie.
Oh, that's a great area too.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. And that's how, I guess people could have ulterior motives, or it's like, oh, I'll be your friend because you got this.
Right, yeah.
I was like, I was your friend because you suffered with me and didn't really bitch about it too much.
Yeah.
And so I was texting him. We had some permission on some goose property, big ranch out there in that area. I think we got access to some 13,000 acres just from.
Jeez, yeah.
So I looked up the guy originally, and he's like, oh, I went to high school with one of these people. I'm going to call her.
Right.
She got him on touch with the granddad. Granddad's, you boys go get him. Go ahead. I was like, sweet,
Right.
We'll be able to find a feed, no problem. And we never ended up doing that. We ended up getting busy. But I said, hey, will you call them folks and see if we can get some turkey access? And he says, oh, you want to hunt turkeys? Well, why don't you just come to my place? Because he had sent me some pictures of some turkeys on his backyard, kind of like if your turkeys were just like right here.
Yeah.
I was like, Adam, I want to like hunt them, you know?
Right. Yeah.
He's like, no, my family's got 700 acres. And I'm like, all right. Well, so anyways, Monday comes around, and we get out there, and pulls up the truck, and I don't know this ground at all. Pulls up, and I said, oh, is there any birds out here, man? He says, oh yeah, there's always birds out here. Next thing you know, pow, 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 pow.
And you're like,
just gobbles going crazy.
Here's my answer. Yeah.
Like, okay, sweet. So anyways, we get in there, and it doesn't really end up working out. They fly off into the neighbor's field, and we only had the timber, right? So I said, okay, no problem. So I go over there to the refuge, and I kind of get on some other birds midday, which, as you know, is tough to do.
Yeah.
I got him playing the game, and I was like doing some spot and stalk. Yeah. And then he ended up being on the other side of the river. He was chatting with me all the way across the river. So I was like, okay, no problem. So then yesterday, Tuesday, I had to get some work done on my bow, so I didn't hunt. Got the bow fixed up, and I went out this morning. Public.
Right.
I was going to go back to Adam's place.
Right.
He messaged me, and he's like, dude, I got a ripping headache at like 3 in the morning. He's like, I can't do it. I said, okay, no problem. So I went over there onto some public, and I was out there early, like 5:30, just trying to hear something.
Yeah.
You know, barred owl hooting, whatever. And eventually I'm like, my first 3 or 4 spots where I had seen some sign before weren't panning out.
Yeah.
Crap. So I'm driving around to this next little spot around there. I hear an owl. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. Get out. Bark, 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 bark. Bow, bow.
Oh,
I was like, yes, we are on. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I get in there, set up my decoys, set up my camera, and anybody who's seeing this and is looking forward to the video, the camera died before the bird came in, so there's no video. But, you know, the morning gets going, and they're not flying down into my field. And I'm like, dang. It's like probably 7:30 at this time, and everything gets quiet.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to sit here till 10 and just see what happens.
See what happens, yeah.
And I can still hear some gobbles off in the distance, some hens working, whatever. And I see the first sign of a hen just on the field edge, about 8 o'clock. So, okay, well, there's the first bird of the day. That's something. She starts feeding out, and I'm kind of like, I get happy feet. So I kind of get up, and I'm working the field edge to get a better glass. Next thing I know, out of nowhere, like they spawn in.
Yeah.
I see a tom, and he's got 3 hens with him. They're about 150 yards away.
Right.
I'm like, okay, cool. So I got my decoys back behind me at this point, but I go back and I grab my bow. Bark, 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 bark. And he thinks it's them, those 3 hens. So I see him watching, chasing these hens around, trying to get on them.
Right, yeah.
They're not having it.
Right, they don't want any part of it.
So I was like, he's going to see this hen.
And it's going to be game on.
It's going to be game on. Sure enough, bark, 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 bark. And he's after he realized that these girls aren't going to play, he starts coming my way.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I'm like behind a bush. I'm not even in a blind or anything with my bow. He passes by me 25 yards, and I couldn't draw back in time.
Right.
He gets over to the hen decoy, starts messing around with it, realizes something, but starts heading back my way. So I draw back as he gets behind this bush, 30 yards. Boom!
Awesome.
Just smoked him. He went like over a little, and I watched him die right there. Oh my gosh, dude! Such a feel.
Yes.
Like such an
public
awesome,
land
awesome
with the
experience.
bow. That's a heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah, I was super proud of it, man. Really, really awesome experience. I called my wife immediately. I was like, "Babe, I just killed a giant freaking."
That's awesome.
And it was just exactly how I wanted it to happen. I got to talk to him. I got to play with him. He came into the decoys, did it with the bow, like. You know, nothing wrong with ground blinds, but like hiding behind a bush to me was like so much more fun.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It just felt like, felt like a wild hunting experience.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
And so that's the turkey story for Kansas. I'm all tagged out. Now, if I had, 2 more Kansas tags, I probably wouldn't have been so high on that one.
Right.
Like we were talking about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
because it just, the exclusivity of having one tag and this is it. Just makes it so much more intense and so much more gratifying.
And I thought he was small at first, but then when he got in front of me, I was like, "That's a full-blown tom."
Right,
he's going down.
Hey, if it was a Jake and you killed one with your bow on public ground, that's still awesome. Yeah.
So. But you just did the Florida Osceola hunt.
I did for the first time. So I got invited down with some buddies to go hunt went to go hunt Florida, and I've hunted Texas, I've hunted all over the Midwest. That's the only bird I needed to complete the Slam. And I was hunting with a good friend, and I got down there Tuesday night, and I'm hunting with an outfitter that has a ton of ground. I think it's like 50,000 acres down there, and hunting a 30,000 acre private ranch. And I got in late Tuesday night, so I knew the outfitter just not really well, just kind of acquaintance more than anything. And so everybody else had a guide, and they were with a client and a guide. And then Matt, my friend, we went kind of on our own, and he works for Dirty's Outerwear, so it's a new kind of up and coming outdoor apparel company. And so he planned on getting some footage and stuff. And so we're setting up the first morning, and didn't hear much. They don't gobble down there, especially this time of year. And did some tree yelping, and then saw 3 hens pitch down, and a couple other hens, and then all of a sudden I see 2 birds kind of running to me, and I'm like, there's no way that this is going to happen within 10 minutes. And they come to like 10 yards, and what I thought was 2 jakes. One just had like a short beard of about 3 inches, and the other about 5 inches. I'm thinking the other one could have been like what we call like a super jake. And I'm like, man, mind you, I'm an outfitter too, so I'm like, man, I didn't even ask him if you can shoot a jake. And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot one. And they had struggled the past couple of days. So we hunt like almost all day, and we pass up like, I think it was like 9 jakes and have like 20 hens within 10 or 15 yards. And we go back that night, and one other guy had killed one, and he's like, well, how did it go? And I told him, he's like, man, you didn't kill a jake? And I was like, no, man, I didn't really ask. I'm a guest here. I didn't want to just, and he's like, nah, kill whatever, especially that's all you need for your Slam. I can't believe that. So the next day I tell Matt, and he films a lot. I'm like, hey, take your gun if these 2 birds come in. And I'm still on the fence of like, I don't know if I'm going to shoot a jake. And I've just had so much fun. That was like one of the best days. Like, I don't need to kill something to justify like the hunt being complete. I got to hang out with great friends, got to see the sunrise, saw gators. It was so much fun. Hunting an area I've never hunted before and dreamed about. Well, I told Matt, it's like, hey, take your gun. So the next morning, of course, the same 2 birds come in, and the one bigger tom's behind the tree, and I can't shoot. And he's like, can you see it? And I'm like, no. He's like, you want me to shoot? I'm like, yeah, shoot. So he ended up shooting one, and he kind of crawls out there and brings it back because the birds are just kind of feeding off. And I take a picture, and then I take a picture, it's a full fan, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. And then it just had about a 4-inch beard. So at lunch break, we go back in, and the outfitter's like, man, that's a really good bird. And I'm like, oh my. I said the other bird that passed yesterday was like a 6-inch beard, and he's like, So never got on any more birds, but Florida was everything that I thought it would be. It's really tough hunting. Where we were at was like the swamps, we're a little bit north of Orlando. And besides the little logging roads, I mean, it was really tough, intense hunting. But I think it just meant so much more being with my buddies, and a buddy that I've had for years, get to be with him killing one that's like, it's hard. Here's the difference of like, if you're an outfitter a long time, it's almost becomes ingrained of you, like shooting is like second. So even that first morning when they were coming in my mind, I'm literally thinking to myself, well, okay, well, if there's no toms, he could bring some clients here to shoot one. That's just how we are. It's just in your mind. I was not thinking, when they were running in, I'm like, man, this is awesome. And then my mind goes like, oh crap, if I shoot a tom early and nobody else does, I'm just thinking like I'm being selfish. So in the end, I didn't end up killing one. I had so much fun, and I am going back next year, but that's all I needed. And literally, I could have filled the tag within the first 20 minutes, but getting to hunt with a buddy for 3 solid days was pretty awesome.
Yeah, those little hunting vacations. I mean, it's what it's all about. And that's kind of the great thing about turkey hunting, is it can be more social.
Oh,
you know. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have a lot of fun like deer hunting and stuff, but for me, deer hunting is like such a spiritual experience. It's like it's so primal for me that I will share it with guys, but like it's not.
Yeah, so as an outfitter, people ask me this question. So what's your favorite thing to hunt? Because I guide deer, turkey, duck, and goose. And I'm like, man, I will tell you what. The best snow goose hunt, the best duck hunt, the best turkey hunt will never compare to the best deer hunt with a bow in a stand. And you're right. Like, I have to share so much of my time guiding duck hunts, guiding turkey hunts, guiding goose hunts, and then the deer semi-guided. That getting 3 or 4 days to set in a stand by yourself is just so rewarding and so spiritual. And I pass on a lot of deer that people may shoot, but I'm more than okay with that. But just being out there, that's like I'm a very like high energy. I have trouble setting down. I'm almost ADHD. But man, when I get in a deer stand, it's like I'm just like, I bet you if my blood pressure drops, I don't know how much. It's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
I can go up there for a few days and come home and be like, man, I had the best experience. And especially my son's like, you didn't kill a deer. I'm like, no, I passed on a bunch. He's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I had so much fun. That you're just like the turkeys. It's like just being out there, and especially with a bow, is just so peaceful that. Not that like duck hunting and goose hunting and turkey hunting isn't fun, but man, you got a bow in your hand, and I tell clients that, like, hey, getting a deer to within 40 yards is part one. Getting drawn is part two. Making a good shot is part three, and recovering is part four.
Yeah.
And being able to do 1 through 4 is really tough to do. And then from the opportunity that you're just out there and watch them, and they have no clue that you're there, and just learning their behavior. If you're really I'm like still a steward of the outdoors, of learning something every time I go, is just like, oh man, that's so awesome.
Yeah, I love to hear that you kind of have that similar perspective on that woodsmanship, because I feel as if the whitetail is like so gamified, like because it can be, right? You could go out there on like an e-bike to a heated buddy blind that's got an Xbox, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and look, if that's your thing and that's how you like, that's the beauty of whitetail hunting, is you can really choose your own adventure.
You can, for sure.
But
Yeah.
I love being woodsy, and I always have a lot of respect for other guys who value woodsmanship like that.
Man, I do, and I think I've done this for 25, on my own for 25 years, been guiding for 28, and I think every season becomes more magical, and I love it more, even though you might think of like, man, if you've done it that long, you take it for granted, but every sunrise, every deer, every turkey hunt, like, I don't know if I could have killed a turkey and been as excited or had as much fun as I already had. Mm-hmm. And I think that's maybe what my frustration, leading back to what we said about the multiple tags, has maybe changed the game so much, is it's like, how fast and how much can I kill, where I'm still old school, like, I don't need to kill something, and I don't need to post something. I don't personally post every animal I kill, and I don't need to anymore. And I think that you get to that point in life that you're comfortable in your own skin. It's like, man, if I kill a deer that I want to kill, great. If I eat a tag sandwich, I'm more than okay with that too. Mm-hmm. And I think that more hunters need to find that. And I deal with that with clients of like, man, I'd have shot that deer, but I was worried that my buddies would tease me, like, they didn't pay for your hunt or your tag. You go shoot what makes you happy. And I think that's I think that's our biggest my biggest complaint with outdoorsmen is not being so sympathetic and showing gratitude and respect for other guys, that whether they decide to shoot a small deer, pass on deer, eat a tag sandwich for 2 or 3 years waiting on the right deer, is like, I just find that just being out there is just, for me, it's just like, that's my church, that's my happy place. I love sports and everything else, but you get me anything in the woods and I guarantee my blood pressure, it's like, this is where God wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. And I was thinking about hold on, I'm gonna have to cut this part out. I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh, you were kind of talking about that it's like the time and place. Like when I was thinking about Kansas deer, the hunt that I did last year, I knew that there was a much bigger buck in that area. But this one played the game exactly how I wanted to play it. And it was a very respectable deer. It was a 125.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't want to pass this up. He's playing my game. And just because he's not the buck that I had seen before, doesn't mean that it's not. It's just, sometimes you got to play the hand that you're dealt, and that was it.
For sure. I think that you do, and I think that, like, you hope that every story or every hunt leads you to tell a story down the road. I could have went to Florida and killed one the first morning and I'd have a story, but watching my buddy get excited and fill his slam when he's been there for 3 previous years filming guys was a part of a story that I'll get to tell forever. So I think I tell guys that, man, shoot what makes you happy, but you might pass on something, but the story changes 3 weeks later, a week later. Maybe the way the deer postured, maybe the way he came in, maybe that he was bumping does around or sparring. So what you just said, like, you can have an encounter with a 160, and which can be an amazing encounter, or one with a 130 that's maybe, busted up G2 that comes in fighting another buck, and you're like, I got to shoot that deer. This is an awesome story.
Yeah.
And so
with the turkey slam, I always get mixed up. There's the Grand Slam, Royal Slam, World Slam. So you're on the Grand Slam.
Yes.
You haven't got the gold.
No, I haven't.
Like
and I that's kind of my bucket list is to shoot them all. I'm a guy that I just love to hunt, and I've tried to always, since I was about 18, go on a hunting trip somewhere. And I've told my son and other young people, I'm like, hey, if you can't afford a guided hunt, go hunt like we talked, public. And if you do it, and I'll be 50, the amount of stories that I have now, and sometimes I forget when someone's like, hey man, you ever hunted here? I'm like, yeah, I've done that. And even though some were great hunts and was successful and others I didn't kill anything, it's like, if you go on a hunting trip every year, and if even it's on a budget that like, I'm doing a DIY public ground turkey hunt in Arkansas one year and you're doing something else, you do that enough years and it's like, man, you look back and like, I've done some pretty cool things. So I think that's always been on my agenda, is like to go and experience as many states and do as many of those hunts as I possibly can. And that's just been something that's a huge priority to me. A lot of things I don't care about, but being able to get out in the outdoors as much as possible is something that's always been a passion. And I think as I get older, because internally I'm like, okay, I'm 50, I got a long ways, hopefully I'm going to be this for a long time. It's like, man, I got a long ways to go to get some of these things done. I gotta kind of go experience more things. So.
And I feel that. I feel the pool of time myself. And, I'm 34, and I'm like, and I focus a lot on physical fitness. That's a big passion of mine. Yeah. And honestly, a big motivator is like, I still want to be able to conquer the mountains till as old as physically possible. This guy was telling me the story the other day. 82-year-old man was out deer hunting, and he shot a buck and freaking died from a heart attack. Not even dragging it out, just from the excitement of shooting.
But that'd be an awesome way to go, brother.
Wouldn't it?
That would be the way to go.
And it's like, I'm like, man, if I could still get out there and hunt at 82, it's almost 50 years from now, I'd be like, okay, that'd be
that's a heck of a life,
right? And all of the different stuff that you can do. I mean, that's kind of what I feel sometimes, where it's like, opportunities are slipping away. Like, that's why I was so adamant about doing the snow goose hunt this year, is because people are like, the numbers are going down, we're not going to be able to kill unlimited amounts of them forever.
Yep.
And we'll see it taper off, right? And organizations like Ducks Unlimited and Delta, and I would say that the ducks are probably the most well managed of all the species in terms of, and again though, that's a federally managed species.
For sure. Yep.
So the feds did something right.
Yes, they did. For sure. Yes.
But I always worry about that. You hear about mule deer numbers declining, and opportunities and elk opportunities, and so I always worry. I'm like, man, am I ever gonna, get that opportunity? And so I try to take and the reality is, the states, they never want to oversell the tags, right? Because it is their renewable resources.
Yeah.
Like, we could sell all the elk tags and kill every elk, but then we can't sell tags next year.
Right, yeah.
So there's that balancing act there that is so important to be aware of. But no, it's great. So you were saying you've been guiding. I want to hear your kind of guiding backstory as a whole. So it sounds like you started as a scout for.
No, I started. So I've always loved hunting. So growing up around here in southern Missouri, I mean my stepdad mainly got me into hunting, and we quail hunted. There was quail everywhere at the time in the mid '80s and stuff. And then my grandpa had a place down in Pineville, which is down in McDonald County, that we deer hunted. And I can remember the early years of going down there. And at the time, I was talking to a friend, I think it was 12 years old. You couldn't actually hunt in the state of Missouri until you were 12, which I was in 6th grade. I went, and then I can remember telling my son and people stories like around the lodge and stuff. Like, I can remember a time that you couldn't get a doe tag. You had to apply. And if you got a doe tag in the mail, it was like you hit the lottery. So that kind of fed a little bit young age of how much I loved to hunt. And then I played sports, loved football and all that kind of stuff. And then once I graduated high school and started to get really into hunting and stuff, I really got into duck hunting then. And then went to college and was kind of trying to find my way. At one point I wanted to be a high school football coach, and then I worked at Pepsi, and then I drove a beer truck, and I was like trying to find my way a little bit, and got married at a young age, and then was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was like, I think I want to guide on the side. And so I just started on a whim. And at the time, now this is a long time ago in the 90s, you could guide on public ground. So I guided on like Bushwhacker and Stockton Lake and Four Rivers and Shell Osage, and never really made any money, just a few bucks, but kind of fueled the fire. Well, my in-laws lived in St. Joseph, which is about 45 minutes south of where my lodge is now. And so I started hunting up in that area, and I remember going to Bob Brown in that area, and at the time it was called Squaw Creek, and being like, this is like the Mecca. Like, they get great deer, turkey, duck, and goose. And met a guy that my in-laws went to church with and started hunting up there. And then that started in 2002. I started guiding up there. I leased a piece of ground and was like, okay, I'm going to guide to help pay for the lease. And then started doing that and made a little money at it, and then came back, and I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I'd kind of like to do this, kind of full time. She's like, yeah, well, I'll give you 5 years and we'll kind of see how it goes. And from that point, I got my first lodge in 2003, and then it was just me, and then I had a decent amount of clients. Now, in the off season, I drove a beer truck, I mowed and had a bunch of yards I was mowing, so I was making enough in those other about 8 months to really kind of pay for everything. And then I would just basically guide in the fall. And then in 2011, I got a new lodge, and that kind of got me to that next tier. It was a little bit bigger and nicer. And then the aha moment was, I think, about 2014. My mom came up and started cooking and cleaning. So before this, I did all the cooking, cleaning, guiding, booking. Man, I thought I was like it. I was a rock star. I was doing it all. But I hadn't really figured it all out, the attention to detail in every single thing. So I remember this vividly at the end of the season. Excuse me, a client saying, hey, I want to put my deposit down for next year. Now, the lodge slept 8 and was mainly just a one-man show my mom cooked. And no one had really done that at that point. I'm kind of thinking, that's kind of cool, but, never had anyone give me the deposit when they leave, but that's interesting. And then like a couple weeks later, it's someone else. And I remember pointing a guy aside, I know this sounds really stupid, but I go, you're giving me your deposit now. Is there kind of a reason why? It's like, hey man, I want to tell you that, like, when we came in years past and you cooked and cleaned, it was great and no complaints. But like, your mom's cooking and your mom's cleaning is 10 times better. And I'm like, okay, so this kind of makes sense of like, it's just more than the hunts. Well, at that time, I was thinking that I was like Superman because I was doing it all. And then that gave me the opportunity with some deposits and stuff to kind of forecast, to book more hunts. And I got some guides that work for me part-time. And then Mel, who works for me full-time now, came on in 2016. And at the time, I remember telling my wife, like, hey, I can't afford to have anybody work full-time to help book hunts and do all this. But I'm kind of was at a crossroads. Like, I'm never going to be any more than kind of where I'm at now. And this is probably going to be it. So I kind of went out on a limb and hired her. And then I had now someone that could book the hunts, facilitate, organize, book flights, do all that work. I could just guide. And then the guy I still leased a ton of ground from, Jamie Barnes, came to me in the spring of 2017. And I was on the Missouri side. So I was about 10 miles from where I'm at now. And the lodge that I have now had come up for sale. It was an old restaurant that had been abandoned. And he said, hey, it was called Camp Rouleau. He goes, hey, I bought old Camp Rouleau. Come look at it. And then I went in and looked at it, and I was like, it was 9,000 square feet, but the outside looked good. The inside was somewhat finished, but it's going to need a lot of work. And he goes, I bought this for you at an auction. He was a real estate guy. And I was like, oh, Jamie, this is great, but like, there's no way I can afford this. And in the meantime, I was building my house that I'm at now. And I'm like, and I had 2 young kids. And I'm like, there's no way. So I came back, I thought about it, and he called me like a week later. He's like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, Jamie, I'd love to buy it, but I don't even want to ask what you paid for it. He goes, well, come back and look at it. So I looked at it, and he's like, I'll sell it to you, and I'll carry the note for 5 years for what I bought it for. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't even want to ask the question of what you bought it for. And he goes, well, I bought it at the auction for $160,000. I'm like, holy cow, which was cheap. Mind you, it's 9,000 square feet. And I'm like, gosh, I'm going to have a couple $100,000 still to dump in it that I don't have. So I came home and called my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm buying the Camp Rouleau. And she's like, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I've always been a big gun collector and had a bunch of guns. And I'm kind of an all-in type guy. So I just started calling buddies. Being like, hey, I got a Super Black Eagle I need to sell. You want to buy it? And they're like, you're going to sell your gun? I'm like, this is it. Like, this is my opportunity to hit it big. Like, I don't have a choice. So I sold like 50 guns and had like $70,000. So that got me the lumber to get everything going on the lodge. And I can remember this vividly. Like, our clients arrived like November 1st of 2017. And we were literally like bringing furniture in as clients were arriving. And I've told this story many times. I was so broke at the time. I had exhausted every dollar from my savings and everything. Literally, Mel, who worked for me, I could barely pay her, was handing me a candy bar. Like, dude, you got to eat. Now, I weigh like 195 pounds now, and I do work out and stay in shape. I was like 170 pounds, like the lightest I'd been in a long time. And at that point, I was like, did I make the right decision? Like, am I really going to make this? And then we got through the fall of 17, and it was like, okay, well, our old lodge slept 8. The new one slept 40. So it's like, oh, gosh, we can take all these clients. But if you don't have enough ground, enough guides, enough decoys, enough pits, well, then all that extra room isn't going to matter. So it took like phases. So I sat down and put a pin to like, okay, I took 8 at the old lodge. I'm going to try and take 20. And then when I get to 20, the next year I'm going to try and take 24. And it took me, so that was in 17. And then the flood hit in 19 that kind of set us back a little bit. And then for us financially, COVID, it took off because everybody got all this free money. Everyone could work remote. And that like took me like to the next level. And then every year from that point, it just has grown tremendously. And now between deer, turkey, duck, and goose, we take about 650 clients a year. Gosh. And I have about 12 people that work for me. And then a couple years ago, I bought a restaurant up there and then the trade show. So now I have about 38 employees. But I tell people this, like I went out on a limb and bet on myself and sold tons of guns. And a lot of friends have called me. It's like, hey man, I'll sell you that gun back. I'm like, no, I'm good. But if I wasn't willing to ask friends to help me the right way, and I didn't want a handout, I didn't want you to give me a loan, will you buy this gun? And a lot of friends didn't need the gun. They were just buying the gun because they wanted to help me. And I tell people, I am blessed way more than I deserve. I have amazing family, amazing wife that supported me, and clients. And I always tell this to people, like, if you're a God person, I look back at connecting all the dots. And I say this to people all the time, like, they'll be like, hey, well, my son, his goal is to play college football. And I'm like, well, it's only if it's God's will. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, my plan in life was not to be an outfitter. It just worked out. And you get older and look back and be like, I can remember in 17, it was like, I would talk to Mel and she'd be like, hey, we got $50 left in the account. And I'm not kidding you, the next day it'd be someone calling like, hey, I need to book a turkey hunt. I'm going to send you $300. And that would get me another day and another day. And that had nothing to do with me. It wasn't my hard work. It wasn't all that. It was just like every time that I was like, all right, God, if I'm going to continue to do this, I kind of need a little bit of help here. And at that point, it just kind of worked out. And I look back on it and be like, man, how did all that happen? And at the time, lumber was cheap and everything was cheap. And I'm blessed that like majority of my friends were in construction. So I could call them and I'd be like, hey, if I have all the material, can you come help me? And of course, every one of them did. But if I'd have waited 2 years after COVID and fuel prices being up and materials, I could have never done it. So it was just that slither of like timing. And I tell people that like, if there's an opportunity for you to excel and to take a chance, man, I always tell people you need to do it and find a way and don't listen to other people. I can remember for many years, I started doing it in 2002 till I got about 14 or 15. I had never really at that point made any money. And I can't tell you how many times I'd be somewhere and someone would like, they didn't think that they were taking a shot at me, but they'd be like, hey man, you still doing that guide thing? Not really taking shots at me, but like, are you ever going to kind of grow up and get a real job? And 25 years later, I've never really had to get a real job, but I was persistent and I wasn't going to give up on my dream no matter what. And the other thing I think that people care about now, I didn't care what people thought. I trusted and I knew how hard I was willing to work, and I wasn't going to let anything keep me from doing that. So for anyone that's out there that's wanting to start a business or whatever it is, don't listen to anybody else. Listen to your heart. Listen to the good man upstairs. And if you're willing to put in the work and do it, I tell people this every day. It's easier to be successful now than it's ever been because less than probably 10% are actually willing to do the work. And if you're the 1%, like I will not be outworked and are willing to do it, you'll be successful no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. That is an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And, I love that you give the glory to God because that is so important.
And I didn't then as much as now when I look back and connect all the dots and I'm like, the any time that I was like, I need some more help, I need some more leases, like, hey, someone would literally, like, there was years we had farmers knocking at coming to the lodge like, hey, I hear that you're new on the Nebraska side, or are you interested in leasing some turkey ground? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'd be like, well, I mean, can I pay you like at the end of the season? Oh, I'm not worried about it. And I met so many good farmers that became friends and supported me along the way, and they saw the passion and how hard I worked. And I saw clients investing in me when they probably should have just taken their money somewhere else, but they're like, man, this guy he's relentless, he's willing to, you know, put it all out on the line and willing to go, you know, all in. And it took 20 years to get to where I was like, all right, I've kind of hit, you know, another level. And I tell, like, the normal guy, it probably just would have broke. I'm not definitely, I didn't come for money. I'm not smarter than anybody else, but I will work. And if I make up my mind that I'm going to do something, I'm relentless and I will not quit. And the other part is, I don't listen to what people say. And I think that's a problem with some people, that, like, they start hearing that voice in the back of their head is the other people talking about them, and they start believing that. And if you can just not listen to that and just stay the course, man, whether you're wanting to be successful doing a podcast or you want to have a TV show or whatever, you can do whatever you want in this world if you're just willing to listen and believe in yourself and not believe. And I was like, why would I? And I would see stuff like, why would I care about what someone says about me that I don't even know?
Yeah,
I care about my close friends and my family, but outside of that, and that's usually the ones that we're talking, the ones that didn't even really know you. It's like, I don't know who you are, so I don't really care what you think. But man, it's I tell people this: if you're willing to go all in and give it everything you have, and I never ever look back, it's like, man, this guy, I never had a backup plan. Like, this was it. This was all I was going to do. I was going to make it happen some way or another. And I think if you will yourself and reprogram your brain that there is no other way, then that's all you know.
Yeah.
There was never like, what's your backup plan? I'd be like, what do what? Your backup plan. Well, there is no backup plan. They'd be like, really? I'm like, no, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
and I know the feeling of the Lord putting that desire in your heart and being like, go climb the mountain.
Yeah.
I got your back. And there's that, and you were saying other people kind of taking bets on you. It's like, I know what it feels like to be that person where it's like, I almost feel compelled to go knock on this guy's door and be like, you need some farm ground.
Yes.
Just like, he got the same bug in his heart.
Yes.
And when you let faith guide you through that type of stuff, magical, wonderful, beautiful things can happen. And you're a testament to that.
I tell the story about how I had to sell guns and I wasn't going to make it and I couldn't afford a candy bar, and the amount of times that I drove home literally in tears of, like, I worked my butt off for 2 months and I got $10 in my pocket. Way more than any client that's ever killed whatever game or any celebrity that's ever hunted with me. Because if I tell you whoever's hunted with me, that's probably not going to resonate. It's like, well, of course, you're going to have someone to hunt with you. You've been for 25 years. But if one person is like, man, like, you seriously didn't have $1 and you couldn't afford a candy bar, true story. You seriously came home from a season and you made $10, true story. You seriously had to sell your guns, true story. And I'm proud of that. That's not maybe people would be like, well, and here's what I did. I got into my savings and I had 100. No, I didn't have it. And I think for them, they look at that and be like, yeah, I'm like, man, the only difference between me and anybody else, I'm just willing to do the work that most people aren't. And I'm honest and transparent about those moments. Those are proud moments that I think about and tell the story to tons of people in the big, man, must be nice. You got it made. And I'm like, you got 5 minutes? I'm like, let me tell you a couple stories. And they're like, I didn't know that. I'm like, no, I didn't come from money. I didn't have any money. I just willed myself to do things that most people wouldn't be willing to do.
And there's a value system there. When you it's so easy to spend somebody else's money, and if you don't appreciate the opportunity that the money granted you. Now, if it was every last dollar that you had and you're like, hey, I'm betting it all on black.
Right. Yeah.
It means a lot more. And you're just going to be, because you can be financially invested in something, but you're emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything invested in this lodge and in this outfit. And, and I'll be completely honest, I didn't do a super deep dive into your program, but hearing you talk about it, I know you wouldn't have that same passion if you're like, yeah, my dad gave me $500,000, wanted to do some duck hunting, no biggie.
And you fight that now that you've, grown and have a bunch of ground and a bunch, other businesses. People see you for where you are now, and I make that a point because they'll just be like, oh, you're just a rich outfitter or whatever, and then they meet me and they're like, man, you're nothing like that. I'm like, nothing has changed. I'm way more thankful, humble, grateful now than I've ever been to be like, God, you provided me with a life that I sure in the heck do not deserve, but I am dang thankful for it. And I think I've seen the other side of that. I've seen people that have success, and it's like the sense of entitlement. Like I worked hard, I deserve it, I earned it, so I'm just getting what's owed to me. And for me, it's like each day I still tell people, so how I'm built is at the lodge, like kind of backing up, is like I guide every day. That's my passion. And I get up by the end of the snow goose season, because you snow goose hunted. My body is wrecked. I'm going to be 50, and I don't drink during the season. I don't smoke. I don't chew. I don't vape. In the off season, I try and get my body in shape. And by the end of the snow goose season, my body is wrecked. I'm exhausted. And I still get up each day, and I'm like, dude, I get to do this for a living. There's not a single day that I'm like, that I'm ungrateful for that. And I still can watch the body language of clients walk in the door, because there's a big misconception with outfitters that they're arrogant or whatever. They walk in, and I love walking up and shaking their hand, and maybe they've never talked to me. They booked the hunt through mail, or maybe it's just through email. And then I talk to them like, hey man, thank you so much. I appreciate the business. And you just watch their face turn of like, oh, he really is thankful that we're here. I'm like, man, and we have an orientation. I start every orientation like, hey, and clients who've hunted with me for 20 years have heard the same thing. You guys can go hunt anywhere in the country, and the fact that you're hunting with me means the world to me. And that truly does. Even though we run a ton of clients now and have grown so much, there's not a single client that books a hunt or walks through that I'm just like, not a big deal. Nobody cares. And I think because of what you just said, because I came from nothing, I had to earn it. And we still, and Mel was over here working the other day, and she's like, hey, look at this. And it was a workbook that we had in a notebook from 2018 that was a list of things, a wish list of things that we wanted to buy. To this day, we do the same thing. And I just did this with our group today, all my employees at Pro Outfitters. I was like, hey, because we just finished up snow goose season, so I gave them about a month. I'm like, hey, I know you guys haven't heard from me in a couple weeks, but by the way, here's the things that we're doing. We got this. We got a new pit that we're putting in. We got a new duck hole that we're building. And it's all the small things. I get just as excited if Mel would text me and be like, hey, we got 2 guys that booked a turkey hunt for next year. I'd be like, oh man, that's awesome. I wouldn't just be like, just 2 more guys. So I think if you have to really grind it out and earn it and figure it out, even though you may grow to a level that people think that you're not blessed as much or not thankful or show gratitude, for me it's the absolute complete opposite. And I tell our team that, like, hey, in order for us to be great, and I tell a lot of people, you got to be consistent. And we learn to be consistent. And in order to be great, you got to hit where you can constantly be consistent. And consistent in a lodge when you got time is your attitude. Because you have people that come all over the country coming to hunt with you, and they want your best, not just in the field. They want the stories that I'm telling now. They want to hear those stories, and they want the consistency. And that I found that is the hardest thing. And I tell young people, because it's like, oh, I started a podcast. did 3 episodes and only had 100 followers. I just decided to do something else. No, you should be like, man, and I hit 101 followers. And how my brain thinks is like, man, well, I have 1 more follower than I had yesterday.
Yeah.
I booked 1 more hunt than I had yesterday. And if you think of it that way, then every day you're building and becoming successful. And if you can look back and be like, well, now I have 10 more followers than I did last week, that's something to build from. But the way the culture is in our world is now, it's like, oh, I started a podcast. I did 3 episodes. I only had 100 followers. This guy had 1,000. I guess I'll just quit. And how my mind is like, no, I'm just going to work and figure it out.
It's like, oh, I can get 100 followers from doing this. Like,
right.
I'm gonna let that
exactly. That's how I think and how people should think. But then understanding is that's not how the world has programmed people to think. It's like, oh, if it's tough and it's not working out, then just go do something else. Like, no, if it's tough and not working out, then figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I had to do all that on my own because I didn't have any money, didn't have any resources. So I just had to figure it out, you know, any way I could.
So is the land and the leasing game getting easier or harder, or are you still working with guys for so long where it's like they're like no matter what?
For me personally, it's like in a lot of ways it's gotten easier from the fact that there's a couple things that I learned from my mistakes. Is one, I learned to communicate and take care of landowners better than I did in the early age. And not that I gypped them on money, but like I would follow up with them and I would tell them how thankful I was, and we do like a gift basket for each one, and we would send them cards and all that kind of stuff. Even though that they may be making a pile of money off of me, I'm still thankful for that. And then I think all farmers in our area are tied together, so we got to the point where farmers were calling us because we were good stewards of the land. I never, and maybe mistakes that outfitters would make, if it's prime rut and they're cutting corn and the farm hands just happen to stop in front of the stand to smoke a cigarette and to take a break, and it runs a hunt, we pick the guy up and move him somewhere else. I don't call the farmer and be like, hey, just so you know, my client is mad because your farmhand parked his grain wagon in front of his stand, was smoking a cigarette and ruined his hunt. Because the farmers would be like, okay, well, you won't have to worry about that next year because I won't lease to you. So we figured out the game of like, hey, farmers are gonna do their thing and they're creatures of habit. You just got to stay out of the way. So if they're harvesting and they told you that they were not going to be in there till tomorrow, but for whatever reason they're in there today and it messed up the hunt, you pick the client up, you tell the client you're sorry, you move them somewhere else, and if you have to make an adjustment to compensate them for the stand time that they lost, then that's how you do it. And I think just building relationship with farmers and then understanding how they're just different. If you know them, not that that's bad, they just process things, they're just different. So if you can figure out how they tick and figure out how not to annoy them during harvest or planting season and how to make them feel grateful for the opportunity that they've given you and not just be like, well, I mean, why should I give them a gift basket or give them a card? Hell, they made $50,000 off of me this year when they don't have to lease the land. And in our area, they merely lease from you because they like you, because most of the farmers have enough money. They're not making enough. I mean, they are making some, but it's not making a huge difference on most of it. It just maybe pays some of their taxes, maybe some of their fuel because it's so high, but it's not like they're planning vacations to the Bahamas on what you're paying them. So I would say it's for us as a business, it's easier for us because the years of service. So we've been in the area for so long. There's obviously the trust factor that, hey, I don't have to do what I did back then. Hey, can I hunt your ground for 30 days and then pay you? Now it's like, oh, how much do you want for this? Well, let me just write you a check. And then how we have a packet. So we have a farmer's packet that has lease, waiver and lease form, waiver and release, liability, has everything that they're going to need where they can just, a guide could meet a farmer that they've never met and be like, I was thinking about leasing from you. He can hand it to them and be like, oh, it says everything that we do, the states that we're in, who our insurances with, how much insurance we have, and they can look at that and be like, okay, they were legit.
Yeah, rather it's an easy decision.
Because if you, not changing this up a bit, in the Missouri, there's no guide license. There's no insurance required. There's nothing. The only thing that you need to guide in the state of Missouri is the tag of the game that you're pursuing. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that if I'm talking to a farmer, that one, I have a check right then. I'm not going to go to a farmer and be like, hey, you interested in leasing your ground? And be like, oh, and by the way, can I pay you in 6 months? Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, it's like, oh, and this has everything that you need. Here's my contact, Mel's contact. And then the other benefit is we own a restaurant. And, oh, for your time, here's a $25 gift card to Wild Bill's for you taking the time out of your schedule. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, man, we didn't know that you owned that. And it's just another way that, yeah, I don't live here all the time, but I own multiple businesses here. So essentially, kind of I am a resident. And that is some of it now is they've been burned enough by guys that don't actually outfit and live. They're not residents of where they're outfitting, and it kind of makes it easier for them to jip out if they're leasing or renting a house or renting an Airbnb. If, hey, yeah, I sent you the check, did you not get it? And so it's gotten easier for us. I know it's gotten tougher for others, and we're big enough that the lease price have went up, but we can absorb that maybe more than other people can, mm-hmm. because we're on that level so big.
Well, and running a good and honest and fair operation where you're not trying to get the best of landowners. And I think a big part of it too, like for me, I always look at it like if I have the opportunity to buy the same thing locally as I could online, I'm going to go give the money to my local shop, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it's that reinvestment back into your community. So if you have a restaurant there, you're feeding people.
Yep.
And you got to think about it too. A farmer, his probably social circle is a much smaller. Maybe his church, maybe 1 or 2, 3 diners that they frequent.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if you're a part of that farmer's, small little community, it means a lot. Even if you're stopping in or giving them 15-minute phone call, it's even if guys like us might talk to you 3, 4, 5 times that many people in a week.
Right.
For them, it's like, just that 15-20 minutes there. It's like talking to your grandma.
Well, I as an outfitter, it's really tough because there's just a lot of people that instantly don't like you, from just normal hunters that maybe could never afford to come on a guided hunt. And then I will tell you, I go on a lot of hunts, and this is the thing that I don't understand. Why would an outfitter or a guide make clients feel like they're better than them, when if it wasn't for the clients you had, you wouldn't have anybody? So, but that is kind of the deal in the industry of like, if you're a guide and outfitter, it's like you just have this aura that you think the general consensus is they think they're better than everybody. So that feeds over to the locals in the area. So if you break down that wall that, hey man, you're just someone that loves hunting in the outdoors and you just want to share that with people, it resonates different than how people may perceive you. And I think that is probably with a lot of people is that keeps them from hunting with outfitters, is just because they just think that they're better than everybody else. And that is my pet peeve with anyone who's met me or anyone who guides me. Like, man, we're just blessed to get to hunt and do what we do for a living, and by no means are we better than anybody else. But I've met those people and been on guided hunts where I never told them. I've just booked a hunt with my son and then go and be like, yep, and this is why this guy's struggling. And I won't say anything. Sometimes I've said something. Other times I've just wanted to go and just go hunt. I didn't want to have someone pick me apart of like ideas and stuff. I just wanted to go on a vacation. And then some you would see like, yep, and that's why you don't book hunts, is because of this, and this, and just in general, just how you treat people. And I tell people this, I didn't know that at a young age. I had to change my ways of that. And it wasn't that I've always been this way. Now this is majority of the time I've been this way, but the early years, I'm sure that I was arrogant and thought I was, the great famous or cool guide or whatever. But then once I got older, I'm like, if I'm really going to make it in this industry, I got to take care of the people that take care of me. And that means treating them the same way that I would want someone to treat me. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest in any industry. But if you've done, I'm sure you know enough that like that is the biggest complaint that people have. Go online and look at all the forums. And what is the first thing they say? We hate outfitters. And probably 90% of them have never booked a hunt with an outfitter, been with an outfitter. It's just that they think they're rich, they're arrogant, and all they care about is making money. And that's not necessarily the case. Now, is there some out there that do that? Of course. But I would say the majority that I know are exactly the way that I am. Yeah. They love the outdoors. They love sharing their passion with people. And they just been blessed to get to do something that they never thought they'd have the opportunity to do.
And the reality is, outfitters are expensive.
Yes.
There's no question about that. And you're essentially paying to reduce that learning curve of getting a limit of greenheads.
Yes.
Or getting, like I started buying a snow goose spread and I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to calc out in the end. I could give you guys $500 and, kill
right. Yes.
however many.
Right.
It'll take me 5 years to pay off this snow goose spread.
Yep.
And, I was thinking about what you were saying about kind of being a little bit of a hothead. It's such a thing, when you're younger. Like, we have to go through that, and, like, we get to have the ripples of memories of being like, I can't believe I used to say that crap,
right.
But
the good ones, like yourself and I, like, not say the good ones, as in you learn from your mistakes, and then you become blessed and thankful. I'm like, my gosh, I made so many mistakes, and I still get to do this. Where you meet other people, and it's like, they've never learned from their mistakes, and they're still continuously making them. And then it's no shock to anyone that they're still struggling, where I have tried to been like, okay, I'm not doing that again because that made 0 sense, or I'm definitely not doing that again because that cost me money, or whatever the case may be. And if you're blessed enough, and I tell people, they're like, man, they'll come to the lodge and they'll walk like, you have it all figured out. I go, I only have it all figured out is because I've been blessed to do it long enough that I could fix the mistakes that I made. Because I'll tell you one story that's a really funny one. So I got my first lodge and had a friend that was an outdoor writer. He wrote for like the Springfield News Leader and all over Texas Trophy Hunter. In my first year of guiding at my own lodge, and duck season opened on Saturday. This is a Friday night. We had like 8 clients. Mind you, at the time I'm doing it all by myself. Well, he was going to come up and write a story on me and do all kinds of stuff. We wake up that Saturday morning for opening morning duck season. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey man, where's the coffee?" And I'm 24 at the time. I said, "I don't drink coffee." And he grabbed me by the arm, just put his hand on. I was like, he goes, "I remember this. I've told this story 1,000." He's like, "Dude, it's not about you." We duck hunted that morning. At lunchtime, I went and bought 2 coffee pots. Now, mind you, I still don't drink coffee. But the first thing that we do is make sure that we have coffee. So all the amenities that we have are things that I don't care about. I don't eat Swiss rolls and I don't eat donuts and all that. But it's not about me. It's what they want. And thankfully, I had enough people in my life then that would, bring to my attention, like, "Brad, like, I know that you'll walk for 2 miles to put out a decoy spread, but your clients, you need a Ranger or 4-wheeler." And I was hardcore, like, well, if they're not going to hunt all day, then they can just go home. And it's like, but it's not about you. And once I figured that, that I'm in the service industry, my job is to serve you and to teach you. My job is not to berate you and tear you down and be like, "You mean you can't walk from here? You can't walk 400 yards without being on a Ranger or 4-wheeler?" Well, maybe they can't, but I need their business. And now it's like, we have like 6 Rangers, so there's Rangers everywhere. There's 4-wheelers, there's coffee pots, there's to-go cups, to where I thought about everything, and then I would ask clients at the end of the year. And the coolest thing is they come and we do an orientation as they check in. We have check-ins on Sunday night and Thursday night. They'll come and I list, because we'll ask, or I'll be like, "Hey, how many people are repeats?" And then I'll go through each group and I'll be like, "Okay, this is Bill. He's been with me for 10 years. Bill, thank you." And then I'll list the changes from last year and we'll change. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, and you guys wanted protein shakes. By the way, we got with First Form. So we have First Form over here. And we have the to-go cups. And by the way, you guys wanted not only bottled water, but water at room temperature. They're setting here." And they'd be like, "You did that because of me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, that was easy." Because majority of the things that you fix and change are so small, but in a client's eyes that they're just like, "Dude, you seriously did that?" And we get there because we'd be like, "You guys have fruit and stuff, but if you did protein shakes or if you had, muscle milk and you had this, well, we went and bought all that." And then they would come back and for orientation be like, "Oh yeah, and from last year to this year, we added, changed this, and this." They're like, wow. And that's what you want them to see, that you value their opinion and not be so stubborn. It's like, "This is the way that we do it." As in the first couple of years, it's like, "Oh, this is my way." Well, I mean, we don't need 4-wheelers and we're hunting all day and there's no reason to come back and take a nap. And now we custom every hunt to what the client wants and needs rather than what I want and need. So,
it's like, all right, let's take a midday break, go watch some college football. You guys want to have a couple drinks?
Speaking of that, I never the first couple years had a TV. And I love football. We got 4 TVs, all the games, everything. And the first thing that still I laugh about, drives me nuts. Clients walk in, the first thing they ask me, not how's the hunting, where my room is, what's a Wi-Fi password. And we have the fastest Wi-Fi we can have because I understand that people have to work. So even for me, that I'd be like, "Dude, you're on a hunting trip, who cares?" But that's important to them. Maybe they have a kid or a spouse that's dealing with a sickness and they got to make sure that they can, FaceTime them or text them or email them at any time. Maybe their boss doesn't know that they're there, and so they're kind of taking work off, but they're not. But we figured out to make sure that we would check all the boxes to where, hey, we can't control the hunting. We can control the environment, the food, the atmosphere, how safe, as in we have a Ranger provided to get you where you need to be, safe stands, blinds, and then if the hunting goes great, that's merely a bonus. But everything else we've controlled and fixed it to where they're like, "Oh man, we said that about a fire pit. Man, it'd be cool if you guys had a fire pit." Now we got a fire pit. And all the things that for guides are like, "Man, you really think at 9 o'clock at night, I want to go sit by a fire pit? I'm going to bed." But for them to just decompress and relax and take it all in is important to them. That like, man, how would it cool just to have someone grab a guitar and play some tunes around a fire pit, and drink some beers. I'm like, well, cool for you guys because you're only here for 3 days, but for us, we're in bed by 9 o'clock because this
and
is
I got to be up at 4 a.m.
Exactly, exactly. But you figure out all those things, and that is the aha moment when clients come back, and you remember the ones that said that. You'd be like, "Hey, did you check out over there at the snack bar? What? Yeah, we got first form. What? I'll be like, remember that conversation last year, or whatever it may be. Hey, the dude wipes you said that we needed, and you can take out in the field. Go look in the bathroom. You got that? Those are easy fixes, but it makes them know that you really value them as a client and that you truly care. And I figured out about 8 or 9 years ago, like, man, if I'm ever going to get to where I want to be, that is where it starts. Because they have to feel safe, one, as in like a safe environment, but two, that you truly value and understand them. And the other thing is, clients walk in and I remember every name. Clients will check in and I remember a name and a story and be like, hey, I wouldn't hunt with you, but remember last year when you fell in the duck hole and I had to give you an extra pair of waders? Like, how do you remember that? I'm like, man, if you spend your money with me, I will remember you.
Yeah.
So,
and I run into the same thing with my business sometimes, where it's like, you're so focused and you're going deep down the rabbit hole, and I feel like the deeper you dive, the more narrow your kind of vision gets. So like the room temperature water, you're just like, what are you talking about? But it's like, okay, hold on. This person's allowed me the opportunity to zoom out for a second. And that's so great, And for me, I realize as a wedding DJ, it's so funny when I tell people what I do.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, I own a wedding DJ company. They're like, I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years.
No, not at all.
I'm like, I'm a dynamic person. I was like, I'm so busy making memories for all these other people. But then when I'm talking about wedding, I'm telling stories and memories that I have. And it's like, oh, wait, I guess I was making memories for myself, too. Like, all along the way.
Yeah.
And it's so, I love being able to be of service.
I didn't, and I say that, I didn't used to, because what you said about when they would say about the water, the first form, or, maybe we only had Coke instead of just Coke and Pepsi, and I'd be, like, more defenseful about it, and like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then when I got to, like, what are they trying to do? They're trying to help me. And when I turned it in, like, they're trying to help my business, and be like, hey, I know this isn't a big deal, but if I was you, like, buy every toilet have a plunger. And I'm like, well, you just double flush. Then I'm like, no, they're trying to help. And so when I stop having that wall of being defenseful and bring it down, like, and then their body, I was like, man, I appreciate you telling me that. And they're almost looking like, are you messing with me? And I'm like, no, I really am. And then they're like, okay, because you're trying to help my business. Who doesn't want someone to help their business? But in a way, I saw that as like, they were trying to take shots at my business, but they weren't. They were just trying to help. But because my guard was up and I didn't see it the right way, because I wasn't serving them, I was serving myself. The lodge was all for me and everything was all for me in my head, so to speak. And I provide everything to when I figured out, like, no, you're only here and I only get to do this because of you. You're here and I got to serve you. And on top of that, you're trying to help me. Like, hey, did you ever think about having, other colors of hoodies besides camo or black? And it told me, why? What's it matter? Well, if you had a pink one or a blue one or whatever, I'd probably buy one for my wife. And that'd be like, oh, okay.
I like when you buy more stuff, yeah.
Right, and then I did the next year. Oh, we had all that kind of stuff. Did you ever think about, having a bunch of stickers? Well, no, why? And then, it's kind of a walking billboard. So when I stopped being defensive and then I became very approachable, then what people told me was not one thing, it was 20. And none of them were big. It's just like, hey, I got, and they'll text me or call me, hey, I thought about something for you. I'm like, okay, I can't wait. And they tell me this and I'm like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And every year it's something. Even though I've done it for 25 years, it'll be like, did you think about this? And I'm like, man, I don't even remember what it was the other day. Someone said something. And I'm like, in 25 years, nobody said that. And I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything big. It's like, oh, we got to do that. And it just is like the littlest things.
It's like the sum of the parts is greater than the parts themselves. It's like all these little things, these small micro improvements that you have made has amounted to a really fruitful experience for people.
Yes.
Because, as you know, we can't control what the game does. We can do our very best to be on the X and to have them deer patterned, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And if you gave them a really great experience and they're like, man, I had such a fun time hanging out with everybody at the lodge. We were watching Arkansas whoop on Texas.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It's they're going to still feel like they got their money's worth. Where if maybe the place was a little dirty and the food was just some gas station roller dogs or whatever it may be, they might not come back. And even worse, they're not going to tell their buddies. And that's where it really is that word of mouth and getting. And then I know like guides in like Montana and stuff, they're like, man, I'd love to take on more clients, but I've just been guiding the same guys for 10, 15 years. And that we just have that schedule full. It's a machine at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're not quite at that point. You're still taking on people?
I do. Yeah, we take on, like, there is a kind of a little bit of a turnaround because a lot of times guys, especially if they're coming on a duck hunt, they're like, hey, I want to go to Arkansas. They'll try and find a different destination. We have about 80% of our clients, are repeat clients, so which is in our industry is very high, and we're very thankful for all those. And the first year is the toughest, and I tell them because then the line of communication and we understand each other. So if you came to hunt with me and I knew your hunting stuff, you're like, hey, I love to be in a lock on and I'm going to hunt all day. Then if I set you in a spot and be like, hunt this for 2 days, initially in client's mind is like, oh, he doesn't have enough spots. So he's putting me here for 2 days because he just doesn't want to move me. Where you see the deer and understand, man, if Brad told me to hunt for 2 days, that means something. Mm-hmm. To where the line of communication after the first year, it's like that aha moment of like, oh, clearly we're on the same page, and the trust factor, because literally I was telling you earlier, everybody walks in of like, it's like I would say the same way you feel when you walk in to buy a car at a dealership that you don't know or used car is the same with an outfitter. It's like, okay, what kind of bullshit are they going to throw my way and what can I believe? And then after it calms down, it's like, okay, this is way better than what I thought. We're good. Like the same way when you're buying a car, maybe the same car salesman, he's like, man, I don't have anything now, but I have something next week. And you're like, oh, no doubt. And then you get one that's like, sure you will. Yeah, I'll never hear from you again. Or you're going to now try and sell me a Ford, which I've never owned. And when I want a Chevy, and you're going to tell me the Ford is better because that's all you have right now. So the level of communication, and then just the you can just see their body relax of like, okay, so he told me that the hunting was a little slow, and they're not overbooked, or he is being truthful. You can just watch the body language, and then when they come back every year, they see how we have like a family atmosphere, and then they connect all the dots, which makes it so much easier. Mm-hmm. It just really does. To where on the duck and the goose hunting, it's not as big a deal, but when you're doing like semi-guided turkey hunts or deer hunting, you're trying to get a bow hunter, a rifle hunter, muzzleloader hunter to set in a stand for 2 days, and they've never hunted with you before, and maybe nobody they have. They just found you online or podcast or whatever it may be, and they really haven't developed that relationship where after the next year, even if you didn't kill one but saw deer, it's like, all right, he's having me sit here all day for 2 days for a reason. Yeah. Even though he doesn't have a trail camera of a big deer, he said that he saw a big buck, dog and a doe, this far away, that he's telling you the truth. So
you want a little bowl? I'll do it one time, dog. So I was thinking about property management, and so you are running trail cameras.
Yeah, we actively run trail cameras. We do mineral sites. We do limited amounts of food plots. We get farmers to at certain places leave us standing crops and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that has become I think just with age is something that I really have found that I love. The management and the figuring out the game of whether that's mowing trails, putting up box blinds, feeders, mineral sites, shed hunting. Just I think connecting all the dots. Where when I was younger, you're just chasing everything to where now you can kind of relax and dial in a little more. It makes it a little more special.
Yeah. So what is your take on predator management? Are you guys doing a lot of active trapping, predator control?
We do have a guy that does a limited amount of trapping for us. And then we've had multiple clients come and coyote hunt and predator hunt, but we haven't had a whole lot of success with it. Really? Maybe we've just had the wrong guys that come do it, but we've had multiple guys come do it, and we just haven't really.
Yeah. I do a little bit of predator hunting with some friends, and thermal. It's fun because it's like you want to be you know.
She's like, here. No.
You want to be out there with your buddies and having a good time, and you are, but it's like, dude, if you're out there yapping too much, those dogs will hear you. And
it's amazing how smart they are. It's kind of incredible.
I was talking to a buddy who traps his property tough, and it's like that with burns, with a little bit of food. I mean, he's got more turkeys than he knows what to do with.
It really is. It's amazing when we talked earlier about, limiting the out-of-state hunters and the non-residents and lowering the turkey tags and stuff. And a lot of that just becomes, one, in our area, the biggest thing is the habitat is being just destroyed every year by farmers, which we talked about that, I understand. And two, the predator control is probably the other thing that is most people just don't. The control burning in the predators is just if you can manage that, it's just amazing what the difference in your turkey population will have.
I like to really think about it, putting your money where your mouth is. It's like people all day want to get on Facebook and complain about duck populations this or turkey populations that, and I'll ask them, when's the last time you killed a coon? Because every raccoon you kill, you probably just made 14 turkeys.
Oh, for sure.
If not more.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
If a coon comes across a nest, it's eating every one of them. Not a couple eggs and then saving a couple more for... It's eating that whole nest.
Yeah.
And then if a coyote comes across, it's going to kill that hen. And now so we lost a hen and we lost all those eggs. And somehow we still have turkeys. Because, it's mind-blowing to me the amount of coyotes I see and hear as soon as the sun starts going down. I'm like, how is everything not dead?
Oh, I know, and I think that's everywhere now. The amount of predators, because nobody traps, obviously, but the amount of people now, I guess, is kind of the amount of people that trap, and then the guys who continuously, religiously now are just kind of specialists on predator hunting, especially coyotes, is higher than it's ever been. But man, they are. I'm not a coyote hunter, so just from the guys I know, it's tough. I mean, it's a whole different game.
So is that something that you guys value? Like if somebody was like, hey, we offer coyote management. We come out. We have this record of pulling this many dogs off. Give us X amount of dollars. Is that something you guys bite on?
We do, yes, for sure. Now we've had multiple clients that have booked deer hunts come back and coyote hunt, and a lot of snow goose hunters now. We've thrown that in. They're like, hey, at night could we coyote hunt? And we're like, yeah. They're like, what do you charge? I'm like, nothing. Go kill all the coyotes you can kill. And we're killing coyotes, just not probably as high or as many as I would like to be taken. So.
Right. Nebraska is one of those states that has gotten a lot higher on my radar. This little, even 3-4 state area, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa's its own thing really at this point.
Yep.
But even the Dakotas, and there's such good game to be had there. And I think Western hunting gets all the glory.
Oh, it totally does. Yes. Yeah.
But, dude, you can have a really, really good... Even if you look at, 5-year plan, be like, I'm going to get... this year I'm planning on doing the early goose in North Dakota with some buddies.
Oh, yeah.
15 limit.
Yes.
I heard it's a little populated, so you got to really kind of fight for spots. Yeah. But, and then there's mule deer riddled out through all that area. I'm getting I have enough points to guarantee a Nebraska antelope. As a non-resident, it's archery.
Yep.
Right. You got any antelope on your place?
I do not. No, you got to go way farther west from us. Yeah.
Yeah. But all these are, and look, elk is amazing. Everybody wants to hunt elk.
Right.
I talk to 100 guys a month, it seems like, and they're like, yeah, man, I'd love to go hunt elk in Colorado or something. I'm like, look, you and everybody else east of Colorado.
Right. Yes, that is very true. Yes. Yeah.
But there's a lot of good game out here, and it seems like Nebraska in particular, kind of what I was getting on. And I don't know why I'm talking about this on a podcast. It's still a little bit of a sleeper state.
It is. It's still, like they say the old song, it's a flyover state, and it still is. It's getting obviously more credit, but still not what I would think. Because people, when they call the book a hunt, we do Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and they're like, which is the best state? And I'm like, to be honest with you, my favorite state is Nebraska. The farming just isn't quite as aggressive in our area is in Nebraska as it is in Missouri, because it's a little more rolling hills, a little more CRP, and the yields aren't as high and the ground isn't as fertile. And there just seems to be overall less hunters in Nebraska. One, there's whatever it is, 6-7 million people in the state of Missouri. Nebraska's like 2. Right. So you get outside of Omaha and Lincoln and maybe like Grand Island, there's no big towns. So like we cover about an hour and a half west of the lodge. You'll go to some place that we turkey hunt and deer hunt, and they'll be like, man, any gas station around? I'm like, there's not a gas station for 40 minutes. There's nothing. Where it's hard to find that in Missouri. So it is just like limited population, and there's like it's nothing to go out there and turkey hunt in some of our areas, and you not see a single person or anybody turkey hunting within a 30-minute drive. So it's the population is fairly strong in all their games. They manage it really well, and then there's just limited amount of hunters. So
in your kind of in like your Golden Triangle area. How is your EHD, CWD issues? Are you finding big deadheads?
We did a couple years ago in Missouri. We found I think it was 2 years ago, we found 12. Last year we found 2 or 3, which is pretty typical, or 4 or 5, but not much of an issue in our area. And I know the whole big to do with, CWD and EHD in more central Missouri and northern Missouri. We haven't, where we're at in our area, on the Missouri side, haven't had really any issues. And on the Nebraska side, literally nothing at all.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I wish it wasn't such a big thing that I have sort of a pushback against is people like to make claims that aren't exactly founded by the biological research.
Oh,
yes. You have these armchair biologists, effectively, who, maybe they got 50,000 followers on Facebook or something, and they think that they know what the hell they're talking about. And I'm like, I would never in a million years claim to have any understanding more than somebody who went to college and is actively participating in all this. And look, college system's not perfect.
Right, yeah.
But when it comes to animal biology and these types of things, you gotta love it, because these guys aren't out there making $100,000 a year, probably even close to it to be an MDC biologist. And it's like, they don't have some ulterior motive. They're not politicians getting money from lobbyists trying to be like, we need to get rid of these deer. It's just not how it works. And so, and a big worry that I have is that these armchair biologists are going to start affecting policy. And I think we kind of seen some of that with the CWD and the non-resident pressure.
Yeah.
Because the first thing when we were having that meeting, I said, is this non-resident reduction in bucks due to population, or if it's just a strictly hunting pressure thing? If you live in North Missouri, I understand that it's crowded. You have Kansas City, which has a ton of people.
Yep.
And you have St. Louis, which has a ton of people.
Yep.
You can't even, from what I understand, if you want to hunt ducks publicly in St. Louis, Kansas City, it's tough.
It's tough, very tough.
So it's like, well, I hate to put a price tag barrier on this, because the people collectively, these are our animals. We should all have access to them one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, because you're like, man, that's my bread and butter.
Right. No, I think we'll probably, have the same ideas on most things. And with that is I think that's kind of what's hurt us in a lot of ways, is that people will follow people and start getting misinformation, and then they just share it and they just run with it, which is something that obviously happens in general with everything, but man, with the outdoor industry, it just seems like it's magnified more now than it has ever been, that this biologist said this, so this is the truth, and MDC wants to kill every deer, every turkey, every duck, and they want nothing to do with any outdoorsman at all. And I work with enough game wardens and biologists at MDC. I have a ton of respect for all those guys, and I have never met any one of those that I felt like they had an ulterior motive. Like, they are actively trying to destroy the turkey population, the deer. They don't care about the waterfowl at all. Now, I'm sure those guys exist, and someone would say that I'm probably wrong, but for all of the ones I know in my area, none of those, and they are more than helpful. And I tell people, knowledge is power. Do your research. I think that's what most people just don't. You're looking at one person that you think is a reliable source, and not saying that they're not, but follow up. And the thing about it, that if you've ever met anyone with MDC, they're very forthcoming of giving you information. If you walk up to them and be like, hey, I don't understand your policy on CWD, EHD, the draw system at waterfowl management areas, they will tell you. And they're not just going to be like, I don't know, I don't care. They're like, they're very good stewards and teachers. I've asked them multiple questions, and every one of them I'm like, man, I didn't think about that. And then they were very appreciative, like, hey, I appreciate you asking that. And I think that that's where most people, they're just, it's kind of like how people maybe think of like cops. Like they're just like, oh, cops are horrible. And we all have friends that are cops. Like, no. There's good and bad in anything. But if you ask most cops, they're going to be very helpful and just be like, hey, if you get pulled over, the most important thing is to do is have your license ready, maybe your hand on the steering wheel, the window down, and not be combative and be rude or disrespectful. And it's kind of the same way. It's like, oh, all MDC, they don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to, screw us all over. I don't feel that way, and I haven't seen that at all from my own perspective. So
I agree. And in a state like Missouri, it's much less of a concern. I have a lot of friends and family who live in Washington State, where I was born. And I think that over there it is much more of a concern. There's some reports coming out, and I mean, straight up people who are on the Game and Fish Commission who have been very outspoken, anti-hunting type of stuff.
Yeah.
And you see the direction that Washington State is heading in, and it's like, you guys ought to start trying to turn this ship a little bit, because, Washington is a great state. Roosevelt elk, they got mule deer out east, Rocky Mountain blacktail deer, one of my favorite species. And it's just like, I talked to my cousin, it's like even difficult to get guns, and there's still so much public land out there, and you can obviously still get the tags, but it's like you could tell there's a concerted effort to kind of chip away at this that's not based off of we just don't have any elk anymore. It's like, no, it seems very clear that they don't want people hunting.
Right.
And you get in these West Coast states, you're going to see a lot more of that type of stuff. And so before we wrap up, I do want to talk gear, right? Because outfitters, you guys work with a lot of different stuff. So so we'll start with ducks. What calls do you like? What decoys do you like?
Calls, I've used the same calls for like 25 years. So it's called Rick Haney Calls. He's out of Kansas City. It's a friend of mine.
I just bought a Rick Haney turkey call.
Yes, I love his stuff. I'm kind of I'm a little old school. Like, we grew up together. We started, he guided for me a long time ago. And I love supporting those that support me. And he makes phenomenal calls. And the guy is an insane. You came to the trade show. He's one of the best teachers that I know, because some people that are so gifted at something, it's like, why can't you just pick this up? But from A to Z, he's so patient and such a good teacher. It's really just cool to watch him to work. So from calls, it's Rick Haney. Boots and stuff, I use Rashad. I have a friend that's a marketing director, and so I got hooked up with them about 5 or 6 years ago. From gear, I do still use, on the deer side, I use Scree. So I have a friend, Locke Wheeler, who's the marketing guy for them. And then Dirty's Outerwear, which, kind of a long story short, we have a duck lease, and Jason, who's the owner and founder of that, has a lease next to us. And we just became friends. And he literally, kind of a long story, but I'll make it short. He's like, hey, I'm starting my own waterfowl company with waders and stuff. I'd like to come by the lodge and show it to you. And I don't mean this, and this was not a knock against Jason, because he's highly successful. It's like, yeah, many people have said that and never got off the ground. And he came to the lodge, and he had all the stuff, and he hadn't got it to the market yet. And he goes, yeah, here's our waders, here's our pintail jacket, here's all of our stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is impressive. Well, Matt, who was at the show with the Dirty booth, he has done all kinds of marketing and stuff for other companies, and he was there hunting, doing some social media stuff for us, making some videos and short films and kind of that kind of stuff. And I asked Jason, I go, well, who's helping you market all this? And he goes, I don't have anybody. And I go, well, there's your marketing guy right there.
Yeah.
And they hit it off, and he's now their marketing director and stuff. So I really love their gear.
I checked out their booth. They're using some really interesting materials that I hadn't seen on other jackets and waders before. I was like, whoa, this is like the act. Like, it felt, and this gets thrown around a lot, but like, I'm not BSing because I don't even own any of their stuff. I was like, this feels like the most durable, waterproof material I've ever put my hands on.
It really is. And So he gave all the guides and myself a bunch of gear, and this was like 2 years ago, like the start of the season, and we didn't post it. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna use these waders, this gear for 60 days, and then I'll get back with him. And at the end, I'm like, man, make a little adjustment here, which is literally like merely nothing. But I was like, Jason, you got something here. Mm-hmm. Like, this is pretty impressive stuff, and it's worked really, wonders on. The decoys, I'll be honest with you, I go back and forth because I'm so tied into all the people at Rogers. I get a pretty good deal on decoys there. I use a lot of dive bomb decoys, but FA is probably, it's FA and dive bomb is probably the decoys that I use the most. I'm trying to think. I shoot a Matthews bow. Shotguns, I got everything because that's just, I used to pro staff for Browning, but I got Browning, Winchester, Benelli, kind of a little bit of everything. I buy a lot of my own stuff because I want it to really work. Mm-hmm. Like, I get, like any outfitter, offers to use whatever product, and if it's not something that I would buy, I'm just to the age, like, I don't need to be part of a pro staff. Nothing against that. I'm part of a bunch of them, but I'm going to buy what I like and what works for me. And then usually I just buy it, and then I'll down the road hit them up and be like, hey, I'm using your product. I don't know if you have. And like, well, you didn't even hit us up for anything. I'm like, well, I'm not going to. I'm not gonna do that. That's just not.
It's a weird thing. I'm on the Darton Pro staff, and it's like, and they make phenomenal bows. Yeah. And Matthews is obviously a kind of a gold standard, but it's like I bought the bow first, and then it was like, oh, you're doing this thing and all this stuff, and we kind of made it happen and connect the dots. And to your point on Final Approach, I run a lot of their stuff too, and I'm like, you buy it, call it $120 dozen. You're like, it'll be a filler decoy or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it's pretty freaking good.
I know. I think all of them, though, speaking of all the gear, from decoys to waders to everything, they have all the companies have done such a really good job of filling the void of anything that wasn't functional and didn't fit or didn't work. And now I think it's like cars. If you're a Chevy, Ford, Dodge, they're all just whatever particular things you like. I think from bows, it's the same way. And a lot of the camo, it's like, man, from top to bottom, there isn't a whole lot of difference, which makes it great for everyone. The same way shotguns. If you're shooting a Super Black Eagle down to an SX4 that's really reasonable, there's, difference, but not a whole lot of difference. And I think that's helped everybody in the outdoor industry because there's just not that, here's the top, and the bottom is so far down at the bottom that if you have the bottom, you really can't be successful.
Right. So. A buddy of mine, he started running scree gear last year or the year before. Uh-huh. And until he started talking about them, I hadn't even heard of them. Yeah. But they have their own camo patterns, which I like. You see a lot of people just like, let's throw some bottom land on something and sell a trillion of them. Yep. But I'm definitely curious to see.
And the guys who started that are from Utah. Utah. Mike and Mike. Yeah, they're big game Western hunters, and a lot of their stuff. I'm not a bigger guy, so it fits well. Mm-hmm. It's more. I don't want to say it's fitted. It has more of like the athletic build to it. To some of the stuff you buy, it's like you buy a large, and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing, it's just way too big, or it doesn't fit right. I'm an accessory guy, especially because I'm older, need pockets for my glasses and everything, and I like that all those have a lot of features and that they're somewhat fitted and breathable and quiet. That's what I love about Dirty, and Scree is the same way. They make high quality gear I'm kind of old school. I do like companies that I can call and talk to someone, and it's not a revolving door of like, oh, and this is the third marketing person and the third salesperson we've had in a year, where I can call those companies and get to maybe the right person that I've dealt with for 4 or 5 years, and if not, it's someone under them that's worked there for a while, and that you have that relationship. And that's kind of hard to find in the outdoor industry because it's like a stepping stone. Hey, I started here, but I bounced to this company, and all those have relatively keeping the same people in-house, and I think that's a huge bonus.
Yeah, I have to keep an eye on Scree a little bit more, because their gear really caught my eye. And my buddy, we were doing a side-by-side comparison of some of my First Light gear when he got that, and I was like, this is apples to apples, man. This is
really
great stuff.
First Light makes great stuff, and I would say that Scree and First Light are probably kind of like, I would say Dirty and Sitka are really close. First Light and Scree are kind of the same way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then one thing you said you have had some more high profile clients. Is there anybody that you can talk to? You have an interesting story with, like
I've had like wrestlers like Ted DiBiase Jr. I've had like if you're into baseball, I've had Kyle Schwarber and Josh Hader and Lance Lynn, and I've had a bunch of country music guys.
Those are big duck hunters, the country music guys.
Yeah.
You hear about those guys coming out a lot.
And then back in the day, I had a bunch of, I have friends with, like Alex Rutledge and a bunch of TV personalities and shows and all that. The thing that we've done in the past 4 or 5 years that's really made us where we get more of those, we don't promote it, and essentially hardly we ever post it. We don't really need to. So those guys feel comfortable. They'll bounce in the lodge and they'll be like, gosh, that's so-and-so that plays in so-and-so's band. He plays, I have a good friend that plays for Luke Bryan or did play for Luke Bryan or whoever it may be. And they'll be like, oh, that's a pro baseball player. We have probably on any given year 6, 8, 10 high-end baseball players that come hunt with us. And if they're on a duck hunt, we'll put like the group where it may be like another guy's name, like, hey, this is the Johnson group that had a great day. But it's not like, hey, come duck hunt next year on November 5th with Kyle Schwarber. Right. We don't promote it. And then what they do, they talk. Hey, I saw you went duck hunting with so-and-so. And then they would be like, oh, yeah, man, and they don't promote it and whatever. Because they're out of season. They don't mind someone asking them, but they don't want to have an outfitter that's trying to promote them. Like, hey, we have 5 spots left for archery season the first week, and these are the celebrities that are going to be there. Yeah. And then the other side that people don't think about, clients don't like it unless they've been there, because they're thinking, oh, you got 10 celebrities. If they're bow hunting, they get the best spots. Oh, 10 celebrities duck hunting, they get the best spots. But when they're integrated in and we do an orientation and they're required to be at orientation and be sitting out there like everybody else, they quickly figure out it's like, oh, they're just one of us.
Yeah.
And then they get to where they get to know them, and then it's just like, they're just cutting it up just kind of like normal people. Now, they're more than willing to take pictures, get autographs or whatever. We just make it to where the clients do whatever they want. The guides they cannot ask for free tickets, free autographs or whatever, because I don't want that to be awkward. I don't want someone to be like, well, I just told so-and-so not to tip me. If he could get me 5 tickets to see whatever, I didn't. And then they get them free, but then it's just becomes awkward. We just treat them just like they would be anybody else. And that's what kind of makes it so special.
I'm actually the worst at that. I've been around high-profile people before, or insanely wealthy people, had no freaking clue, and I'm like, treating them normal, and people are like, dude, do you know who that is? I'm like, yeah, not the clue. Like,
I'm really bad about that because I love sports, but where the lodge is in Fall City, there's a small airport strip, and we get guys that fly in on jets all the time that make millions of dollars, and some I know and some that I don't. They'll be like, do you know who that is? I'm like, they're like, that's so and so. I'm like, oh, okay. If it's outside of sports and other things, I may not necessarily know, but we've had all kinds of, from baseball, basketball, a lot of ex-football players, some pro golfers, wrestlers, and all of them are just, I've never met any of them that aren't amazing, because it's kind of like, people are going to treat you kind of how you treat them. So if you treat them with respect and take care of them, then it's kind of the same way. And I found that most of them are insanely giving and insanely thoughtful. Like, I've been places and, posted on Facebook that, hey, we're here, whatever, and a baseball player will call me and be like, dude, I'm playing here and you didn't ask for tickets? I got tickets for you. And you're like, oh man, you didn't really need to do that. But they're very giving if you treat them the right way. I think that, which is kind of with anything, but especially with pro athletes, especially.
Dude, those pro athletes, I found myself at a party one time talking to this retired player who was a Super Bowl champion. Yeah. And, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
right?
For sure, yeah.
But this guy he heard I was a buck killer and loved to hunt elk, and so he came over and he was like, oh, I heard you do this. And he actually lives in Lamar, out here. And so I was sitting there talking to him for like an hour or two, and it wasn't until the next day my buddy was like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, he played for the Pats. And I was like, no shit.
It is really cool because, especially like in baseball, because the baseball players, it's the season's just different and long. Now, you'll be watching Sunday night football or Sunday night baseball, and early in the day, one of those clients are texting you being like, hey man, how's the deer hunting looking? How's the duck hunting looking? And they're playing on Sunday Night Baseball. You're just like, or you're watching them and being like, I just talked to him on the phone today.
Yeah.
But all those are just normal, super good down to earth people. So yeah.
So if people want to find you or maybe book a hunt with you, what's the best place to do
the
all
best
that?
way? Our website is just huntprooutfitters.com, and of course we have our Pro Outfitters Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, which we don't do a whole lot because of some of the things you can put on there.
Yeah.
And then my number 417-434-7615. You can call or text, anytime. So. Yeah.
Well, Brad, thanks for having me, man. It was great chatting with you. And let's keep in touch. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, it was nice you came to the show and we got to meet each other. So, for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Cool.